It's now my absolute pleasure to hand over to Albert Tucker from the Big Lottery Fund, from the International Committee. Albert is a leading figure in the fair trade movement and overseas development, and is an advocate for poor small farmers in global trade and policy. He currently works as an independent consultant and recently worked with the BBC. Something that I'd really like to highlight is that when I first came across this project, there are a couple of things that really struck me. First of all was the close relationship between the funders and the regional team and the team here in the UK. Heather's in the room, I think, somewhere as well, is she? Yeah. Heather from the Big Lottery Fund has been actually with this project from its inception, and this really has made, I think, a difference in terms of creating a flexibility and a responsiveness to the changing environment and the changing needs of the people who it's all about, which is the vulnerable migrants. As someone who works in strategic trends, I often see that the tail wags the dog, and actually having a project design which really focuses on the changing needs and the changing environment is actually where we all need to get to. And so I'm incredibly impressed with the relationship, with the passion that everybody has shown. And I'm certainly very keen to hear more from both Albert and then later on, hopefully, Heather, about how this has worked for them as funders. But thanks very much, Albert, and over to you.
All right, thank you. I wonder if I could stand. Could I?
Of course you can stand.
I've been, or shall I just put it here?
That's probably best.
Okay.
I've been given strict instructions by the AV gentleman not to move
I've
the
been
stuff.
sitting a long time, and I don't want you to fall asleep on me because I'm sitting back too far. But my name is Albert Tucker, and as John has said, and Kat have said, I'm on the Big Lottery England Committee and also on the International Committee. I have spent a bit of time working on development, but I won't bore you with that. I'll tell you a little bit about the Big Lottery. At the Big Lottery, we spend about 2% of our budget on international development. It seems like a lot of money to me, but in terms of the context we're working in and dealing with, it's not a lot. And as you will all know, if you've read the Daily Mail ever in your life, that we are publicly accountable. So we need to be sure that we're demonstrating a good use of public money. And there are many who think they can scrutinize us, from the people who buy lottery tickets to politicians to people who think the newspapers should be telling us what to do. So we have to be very, very clear that we're creating value. Over the last 5 years, we've awarded about £80 million in grants. As I said, a large amount, but really in the context, not so much. I was part of the decision making of this grant 5 years ago. It was a departure for us. It was a medium-term, long-term to us, strategic grant. And it was very heavily debated, and being very open with you, it was decided as a high-risk grant because there was a risk in terms of it being new to us, but also of it being seen as not the best value for money, but also a highly risky area of operations. I mean, if in international development terms or foreign office terms, if you talk about that border, you're already in risky territory. So we were already starting with a risky proposition. But what we liked about it was the partnerships, the approach CARE had taken to it, the local agenda in terms of actually getting a lot of the money down, skilling up local organizations and people to run it, and the target group, who are some of the most marginalized. And I particularly liked the entry point being HIV and AIDS, but actually the program being about focusing on women, girls' education, health, and actually changing the systems they're having to deal with. That was finally what did it for us as a project to fund. I mean, normally we used to funding grants between 300 and 500,000 over 3 years. This was a very, very clear statement. We're also very keen to learn from it. And the Big Lottery team, Adam, Phil, and Heather are here. It would be great to catch up with them on some of the learning we've drawn from it, because we as a funder have learned a lot from it. And I think a couple of the guys have actually been over a couple of times to visit the project as it's developed. And we were, as a committee, also very interested, and I've been involved in a couple of reviews and feedback sessions about this. We were very, very impressed and encouraged and hopeful about the ability to combine all the different elements, the holistic approach to trying to deal with the problem, and the opportunity to influence the area, the people, and women in particular. I could talk a lot about what I know about the project and the model of intervention because I've been quite close to it and I do like the idea. But one of the things, just talking to a couple of members of the team at the moment, one of the pleas I want to make from reading all the papers is that guys were telling me that one of the things that came out of the people who they were working with was remittances, the transfer of money between the countries and how difficult, troublesome and expensive it is. I work a lot in Africa, that's an issue I know a lot about. But the success they've had in getting women to open accounts and actually be able to transfer money and manage what happens with that money, I can't tell you how amazed I am about that because there's some very simple things in gender equality for me. I work with a village in Africa where the sea god came in a dream to the chief about 70 years ago and said, if you want this village to thrive, the future chiefs have to be women. Since that day, they've all been women. How good is that as a gender policy? So sometimes it's practical things that make change, not our policies, not our statutes. And so women controlling the account is a huge achievement, and well done for that one. But also they talked about other things, like how some of the governments on the border are beginning to see that actually creating information points, creating good health advice helps the area, helps make their life easier, and makes things work better. These are important things. They don't sound like the strongest reasons why we funded this project, but for me, they're very, very fundamental results that the team are already having. So these are things for us that were important in supporting the project. And I really do think in the communication strategy, in the call to action, please talk about those things which people themselves did, because that's what's going to change the minds of our accountability people. It's not just the metrics and the numbers of people helped, but those changes that will sit there forever. Those women controlling their own accounts, none of us can go back to them and tell them to go back to where they were 5 years ago. So things like that for us are critical. So communicating the findings for me is really, really important. And again, if there's anything we can do at Big Lottery to help with that, I'm sure we will. The whole issue of influencing government to actually do things, not the whole advocacy agenda, but the actual, by demonstration of benefit actually and of change, encouraging them to do things. The other element of the conference that I'm interested in, particularly, and we at Big will be interested in, is the thing about voice. This is a community that everybody tells us has very little voice. And whilst acknowledging the very high level representation we're getting on the issue now from this program and the success of this program, I think it's also important that we keep those people in the frame, those people who are being worked with on that border. I have not had the privilege of going to the area, but colleagues who have gone back have reported to us and shown pictures to us. I can't imagine, I literally can't imagine. I've traveled around the world and in tough places. I can't imagine living in those conditions and still working with a program like this. And so really be good to have those people present in the room as much as we can as we go forward in communicating. Migration is going to be a global issue. Women's role in development, women's vulnerability in all of that is going to be a critical issue going forward. So I'm hoping your deliberation over the next 2 days really, really helps to strengthen some of the things we all can look at and can contribute to in actually making a difference in this. I mean, politicians will struggle to do things about this directly because it's not the easiest subject for politicians to talk about. I mean, you're bringing migrants together with women's issues and gender issues, and politicians, you can see, would really walk the other way. I hope I'm wrong. I hope 90% of the House will tell me that that's not right and will show me that that's not right. But I think if politicians, businesses, governments can see some of these tangible differences that it makes in life. I mean, one of the other things the team were telling me about was the violence between the people on the ground, the rickshaw folk. When they realize, well, actually, if that continues, out of their intervention, they realize if that continues, it will be bad for their business because people will go elsewhere. So that's changed. So things like that, reducing violence in a stroke like that without having to have police and military presence must be amazing. So those are the kind of things I think I would really like to see come out more. In terms of that voice as well, we at the Big Lottery are reviewing, and you will know that we haven't got any open programs to apply to at the moment. But we are in the process of reviewing how we go forward. There is an opportunity to make a contribution if you haven't already. We've got a site called Your Voice, Our Vision, and I will plead with you. I think it's closing soon, so I will plead with you. If you haven't contributed and given your views, it will help color what we decide to do next. I finish my term at the Big Lottery at the end of the year, and I really would plead with you because your views will be listened to. So do please contribute your views, whether it's things that came out of this conference or from your own individual areas of work. Do go to that site and contribute your views about the areas you think we should be thinking about focusing on. And by that I also mean the kind of approaches, the kind of partnerships are hard for us, as I know it is for some of you. Because as a funder, we come in and we say to you, we want you to work in partnership. That can mean so many things. It could mean a total nightmare. It could mean something that works well. And we have no illusions about that, but where we've seen great success is where good partnerships, people bringing clear skills and leadership together on the ground and internationally make a difference. So I think things like that is also important for us to continue understanding. And I really want to thank the team, the CARE and team and the Emphasis team for the work you've done. For me, it's been a huge encouragement. You've shown that the partnerships can work. You've shown that you can measure metrics. You've shown that unexpected consequences can come out of doing the right thing. And you've shown results. And those are things, for me, that's the dream ticket. You've made a real change on the ground, and we can proudly say we funded that. There's nobody who I couldn't confront with the value of that piece of money. So thank you very much, and I won't go on any further. Thank you.
Thank you.